Well, blessed good morning, blessed Friday. It is Friday. It is the end of the week. And by the grace of God, we've all made it into this one space. And we are thankful. We are tremendously thankful that we have been able to come to this time. The end of another week, the beginning of a weekend, the end of Lent 2, and our Lenten season progresses quite speedily. Trusting that this week was also beneficial, trusting that we would have been able to keep up with whatever it is we decided that we were going to observe during this season of Lent, and that we are remaining constant. And when we fall off the wagon, as it were, to be able to get back on and to continue without judgment, without a sense of guilt, but just recommitting ourselves to what it is that we purpose in this time. As always, it is really and truly a joy for me to just spend some moments in reflection with you during the course of the week, and I trust that this week, like others before, would have been of some benefit to you. And so as we come together now, I just want us to come into a place of patience and to be able to just use this time to reflect, to be still, to acknowledge God's presence in our midst, to reach out across cyberspace and connect with each other. No matter when we would be listening to this devotion, there is no time, as it were, with God. So whenever you are hearing these words, to just reach out with all those who usually connect at this time. And let us allow that grace, that divine grace, to flow through us all and to us all. At the end of this week, we give thanks for all that has taken place, all that we have heard, both through my voice, but even more especially, what Spirit would have been saying to you, not only during the time of devotion, but at other times when you continue to reflect on thoughts that have arisen, even in your own wilderness experiences as you are taken through your various challenges. And mind you, we must be aware that there are challenges that occur, and they may not necessarily be connected in any way with our devotions, but just presenting themselves day by day. And it's all part of our Lenten devotion, our Lenten commitment to clearing out our closets, getting rid of old habits or practices that no longer serve us, getting rid of those deeply indwelling behaviors that have defined us over the years, behaviors that we feel almost helpless to free ourselves of. But in this time of Lenten devotion and giving ourselves this dedicated focus on God and Spirit, we might very well find that these things present themselves for the purpose of being dispatched and for us to go through our changes. So don't be alarmed if you find that there are things arising for you and you're wondering, why are they coming up at this time? Well, it's because you have decided that you want to take this time to explore with the divine that true self. And so in order to do that, we must also examine that false self and disrupt it so that you can experience that true self. Following our passage for the day, I'm just sharing with you. Jesus is saying, I can do nothing of my own. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek to do not my own will, but the will of him who sent me. If I testify about myself, my testimony is not true. There's another who testifies on my behalf, and I know that his testimony to me is true. You sent messengers to John, and he testified to the truth. Not that I accept such human testimony, but I say these things so that you may be saved. He was a burning and shining lamp, and you were willing to rejoice for a while in his light. But I have a testimony greater than John's. The works that the Father has given me to complete, the very works that I am doing, testify on my behalf that the Father has sent me. And the Father who sent me has testified on my behalf. You have never heard his voice or seen his form, and you do not have his word abiding in you, because you do not believe him whom he has sent. You search the scriptures because you think that in them you have eternal life, and it is they that testify on my behalf. Yet you refuse to come to me to have life. I do not accept glory from human beings, but I know that you do not have the love of God in you. I have come in my Father's name, and you do not accept me. If another comes in his own name, you will accept him. How can you believe when you accept glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the one who alone is God? Do you think that I will accuse you before the Father? Your accuser is Moses, on whom you have set your hope. If you believe Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote about me. But if you do not believe what he wrote, how will you believe what I say? The word of the Lord. During the course of this week, I would have used as my theme the challenge we face to move beyond the known. And all through this week, that has been the focus for us, and we can see this occurring in a large way in all of the readings that we have come through, and we can really understand that this has been a challenge for us all. No matter how we look at it, there is that sense that there is a challenge for us that we need to address. And so as we come to the end of the week, I just want to be able to just reiterate for us that understanding that that's the challenge that we face. The ability to move beyond the known. In this entire passage that I just read, you hear Jesus wrestling with the folks because he's trying to help them realize that their resistance, they're resisting, and they're not even sure why they're resisting. They are claiming Moses, but Moses has spoken about him. They are claiming John for some while, but again John spoke about him. And so there's this move within them to have that challenge to in any way take themselves beyond where they are. There is that sense that they've become accustomed to Moses. Yes, John would have been challenging them, but the challenge from John is nowhere near where the challenge from Jesus is, because Jesus brings that powerful message of love. And as simple as the message of love is, I think one of our greatest challenges in this world is trying to be able to understand love and to allow love to be central to us. And the reason I believe that is so is because our spiritual journey has not been our primary journey. If our spiritual journey is our primary journey, then we have a deep understanding of what love is. But in our material world, we have other things as our primary. And these things can use love. But the way they use love is to be able to facilitate their advancement. So love in many regards becomes transactional. And this is the kind of love that we know more than anything else. We go through the annals of history and we look at issues such as marriage, for example. And we see marriage was hardly ever about love. It was more about property and possession and inheritance and the binding of nations together, or the facilitating of a truce or a treaty. Those are things that we have used that relationship to acquire. But divine love has not been a part of our vocabulary. And if we are to go forward as a human family, we really have to look again at that understanding of divine love. Even when we look at our religions, even ours as Christianity, that speaks so much about love, when you look through the annals of history, you don't really see it being there testifying out front. You see all manner of other things testifying. You see works testifying. You see authority or power more so than authority testifying. You see control testifying. You see wealth testifying. But you don't see radical love being perceived as the raison d'etre for the faith journey. And we need to come to that. And our faith traditions need to come to that. And we don't have to wait on our faith traditions to come to it. As a matter of fact, what is really needed is for you and for me to come to that in our lives. To release our focus on the various institutions and to build again from within. We need to build again from within. And to build this self that we are from within. To discern within us that essence that we are, which is that we are beings of love. And we need to start there. However we get there, we must start there. But to get there, it means we need to shed. And that's what caused so much trouble with Jesus in his day. Persons were not prepared to shed what needed to be shed in order for that which is at the core of ourselves, in order for that to emerge. Persons were not willing to shed, but shed we must, because divine love cannot manifest through the layers upon layers of personality and ego and self-serving events and self-serving attitudes. No, love does not fight. Love is present and it waits on us to discover it within ourselves. So therefore, as we go into this weekend and just relax and take some time, just remember this theme from this week, these challenges, this challenge to move beyond what we've known and understand that it is a challenge, yes, but it is not impossible. And if we are to grow, if we are to become more than we have known ourselves to be, if we are to in any way affect this world, we've got to be prepared to move beyond what we have known, what we have received. And we have to listen again to the essentials. You got to listen again to the words of Jesus, not as interpreted, not as used as the basis for doctrines and dogmas and ideologies, but just the words themselves, as best as we can, to see if we can extract from those words an essential way of being that places love as the prime directive. Living from that prime directive, reevaluating our relationships, reevaluating what we have defined as love, setting others free, setting ourselves free from the bonds that we have bind each other with because of our transactional understanding, and allowing divine love to emerge from our hearts and form new relationships, form new ways of being in the world, ways that align with what Jesus was teaching, ways that demonstrate to us in physical terms what Jesus was seeking to show us by his physical life on earth. These are the things that will assist us in helping this world. Because look around. When we look around, we know things are not where they really should be. We know we're not in a place where we can be our best selves. We know we are lacking in so many ways. Yet we live in a world where we hear that there is no lack, there is only abundance. So if we are lacking, it must mean that there is some way in which we are not aligning ourselves with this abundance. So rather than trying to add plaster to the wound, why not let's go to the core and clean out the wound and find a way that we can bring healing to our world, true healing, for the sake of all of humanity. Not for my sake, not for your sake. But let's realize that right now, what's in crisis is not you or me or this nation or that nation. It's all of humanity. And it can be resolved if each one of us begins to take seriously our call to be our true selves. Don't be afraid of the challenge to move beyond that which you've known. But learn to trust God. Trust the God that has called us into being. Trust the God that has placed us in this world. Trust that God to help us to find the way forward.
A time to gain and a time to lose, yeah.